The Story Vault presents Tales of the Samurai, Episode 3, The Last Duel. The sun hung low over the valley, casting long shadows across the blood-stained earth. The wind, warm and heavy with dust, swept across the empty field. There were no crowds today, no cheering or jeering, only the silence of two warriors waiting for the inevitable. Kenji stood on one side, his golden armor gleaming faintly in the twilight. His once bright eyes were now steely, hardened by years of battle. His reputation as a master of the katana had spread far and wide, but today it wasn't his skill that weighed on his heart. It was the man before him. Takashi, his former brother-in-arms, stood at the far end of the field. His once loyal face was now a mask of cold fury, his armor scarred and worn from countless battles. The two samurai had fought side by side in their youth, their bond forged in the fires of war. But a bitter feud had driven them apart, a feud that had only grown more bitter with time. The cause of their animosity was no longer clear. Was it a woman? A betrayal of honor? A clash of ideals? What mattered now was that it had come to this, a final duel. No words were exchanged as they faced each other across the dirt-streaked ground. There would be no speeches, no demands for surrender. Only the clash of blades would settle this. Kenji's grip tightened on his katana. It felt heavier than usual, a burden he had carried for far too long. He had fought countless men, but never had the weight of his blade felt so real. Takashi was no longer just an opponent, he was a reminder of the past, a past that Kenji could never forget. Takashi's hand hovered over the hilt of his katana, his posture calm, yet the tension in his shoulders betrayed his readiness. His eyes were locked on Kenji, his expression unreadable. The sound of a bird call echoed in the distance, but it was drowned by the sound of metal scraping against leather. Takashi drew his sword in one swift motion, and the field seemed to come alive with the sound of the wind rushing through the blades of grass. Kenji responded in kind, unsheathing his own katana with a practiced movement. The two warriors stood in perfect stillness for a moment, as though the world itself had paused to witness their final reckoning. Takashi was the first to move, his blade cutting through the air with deadly precision. Kenji parried the strike effortlessly, his own sword flashing as it deflected the blow. The clash of steel rang out, sending echoes through the valley. Their feet shifted on the ground, dust rising with every step, but neither warrior was willing to yield. Kenji's eyes flickered with a moment of hesitation. He saw in Takashi's face a glimpse of the man he had once called brother, a man he had laughed with, fought alongside, and shared his dreams with. But that man was long gone, replaced by someone consumed with hatred, someone driven by vengeance. The two exchanged blow after blow, each strike a perfect expression of their years of training. Kenji's style was graceful, precise, a dance of deadly elegance. Takashi's was raw, powerful, fueled by anger and the desire to end this once and for all. Their blades met again, and this time Takashi's sword found its mark, grazing Kenji's side. Kenji winced but didn't falter. Blood stained his armor, but he continued, his movements fluid despite the pain. He stepped back, momentarily disengaging to catch his breath. "Why, Takashi?" Kenji's voice was low, strained with emotion. "Why has it come to this?" Takashi's eyes narrowed. "You failed me, Kenji. You betrayed everything we stood for." The words stung, but Kenji's resolve only grew stronger. "I never betrayed you, Takashi. You've let your anger blind you." The two warriors locked eyes, and for a moment time seemed to slow. In that moment, both of them remembered the days before the bitterness, their youth, their bond, their shared dreams. but it was too late for reconciliation. They had chosen their paths. Takashi charged again, his blade a blur of movement. Kenji sidestepped, his sword flashing as he made a quick, calculated strike. Takashi's guard faltered just for an instant, and Kenji seized the opportunity. With a swift, precise movement, his katana found its mark, a deep cut to Takashi's chest. Takashi staggered back, his sword slipping from his grip. He looked down at the blood soaking his chest, then back at Kenji. His eyes were filled with disbelief, but there was no anger left, only resignation. "You were always the better man," Takashi whispered, his voice a rasp. "I was too blind to see it." Kenji lowered his sword, his heart heavy. He had won, but the victory felt hollow. Takashi fell to his knees, the weight of his sins catching up to him in his final moments. "I'm sorry," Kenji whispered, his voice cracking. "I never wanted this." Takashi collapsed onto the ground, his breath faltering. The fight was over. Kenji stood over him, sword in hand, as the sun dipped below the horizon. The field was silent once more, save for the soft whisper of the wind. Thank you for joining me in this story of honor, regret, and the cost of vengeance. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who love the timeless stories of the samurai. Your support helps us continue to bring more thrilling tales of warriors, honor, and fate. What do you think? Would you like to see more samurai stories? Let me know in the comments below.